Listen, I'm just gonna start. I'm just gonna start because I was just sitting here staring into the void, and the void isn't particularly chatty. So I'm just starting. And it's a whole minute early, so you're welcome. Now, what the fuck's happening with the chat? Where's the little chat box, you guys? The last did it stare back? Literally me before stream. Honestly, and I'm so unprepared because this was supposed to be me doing a solo vulgar science because Layla's away and she did a vulgar science without me while I was gone, and we were going to do it on the new channel. And then I realized that I have to set up the whole slobs thing again. And I was like, I'm just not mentally prepared for that. I did literal brain surgery all fucking day. So I don't have the capacity. And now I don't have the little background for my thingy, and I'm just gonna figure that out. Chat. Oh, it's because it's below. Is it below? It's not below. Hello? Why is it not there? What's happening? You guys. So fussy. Anyways, how have y'all been? It's been like 85,000 years. Hi, Muse Clues. Hi, Dougylicious. I've obviously seen Dougylicious since I've been back, but yeah, things have been a bit of a struggle since I've been home. I think I told the stream, I've told y'all, the viewers, the people, that I was going to have roommates when I got back, which I do. So right now, in my current apartment, which my door is not even close to my bedroom. One sec. Right now in my apartment, there are two other people cooking. My friend and colleague, Dr. Oakley, and her partner. And they're cooking up all kinds of delish stuff. And I just really, why? Where Chatbox? Why Chatbox like this? Why look at size? What happened? You guys, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. You're going to watch me live power through figuring this out. I don't even know. No. Settings for Chatbox. I hate this. Oh, I just want to make it let's make the width like significantly less. We don't need a girthy chat, do we? Do we need a girthy chat? That might be too narrow. We need girthier chat. Okay, this is getting better. Okay, it just doesn't have a little background, so it's hard to read. It's looking up. I think I may have deleted the source that had my little doodad. Oh, this is what it is. There it is. Guys, I had it hidden. Why am I like this? Because that's who I am. As you can hear, oh, that was bad. I hope that didn't sound as bad for you guys as it was for me to experience. I think I got COVID. Like, I don't know that I got COVID, but like, I probably got COVID. While I was gone, I came back and I like had a couple days where it had no sense of smell. So like classic. I mean, it could also just be some other sinus related, throat related thing, but it was like pretty rough. And that was right after I got back. And then these guys came like 2 days after I landed, like a day and a half or whatever. So that was challenging. Just cause like, I don't know, I get really bad jet lag coming home, which is supposed to be the easier jet lag to do because like I landed at like 2 p.m. or something like that. And I had left at like 9 a.m. So I was just going to like go to bed early and it should be fine. But then I kept like waking up at like 3 a.m. because that's normal time. That's a lie. I was waking up at like maybe 5 or 6. I don't know why I said 3. I would wake up at 3, but I wouldn't get up at 3. And then because if you do the math where I was like in Spain and the UK, that meant that my body was used to getting up at like noon and 1 o'clock because your girl did some partying here and there. She also had some calm days. But yeah, my trip was chaos. There was a couple of like relaxing days, especially in Spain when I was in Valencia. That was amazing. But then I had to take a bus because I didn't book my train appropriately. And I had to take a bus to Barcelona because I was like, oh, I'll just walk up that day and get a train ticket like at the site like they do in the UK. It's not so much a thing in Spain. You have to like pre-book them. So they were all booked. So that was stressful and I had to take a bus. And as you probably are aware, buses blow compared to trains. So that was that. And, yeah, I also had like this like disclosure of self. Kozaki won. Hi, how's it going? That looks like a stressed face. Oh, it's a face. Hi. Welcome. I'm Neuralicia. It doesn't say you're a first-time chatter, but I don't recognize your screen name, so I'm going to assume that you don't know who I am. I'm Neuralicia. Usually on Mondays, I'm chatting with my friend and colleague Layla Show. And yeah, anyways, today I'm just talking about random stuff because I just got back from traveling, so I'm actually going to talk a little bit about culture shock, a little bit about like kind of the stages of that you go through and maybe some like possible neurological mechanisms of that. I didn't have a whole lot of time to research because honestly, I've just been behind in life. It shows FTC for me. Oh, it does show FTC. Okay. Everything is messed up on just my life and my end. So welcome, first time chatter. Welcome in. We talk about science here. And Mondays, usually I'm actually talking on different channel, Vulgar Science, which, as you can see in the top left here, it's just at Vulgar Science. I'm usually here with my friend Layla, and we usually talk about science together, but she's away now that I'm back. And it's actually my 10th time here. Well, still, first time chatter, 10th time here. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you being around. Cool. Welcome. So yeah, I had like a pretty rough day in Barcelona. It was about halfway through my trip, which is kind of normal for me, I guess. Yeah, every other time that I've traveled to Europe, it's been a little bit wobbly around kind of mid-trip time. Even when I was there for like a month. I mean, I was in Ireland for a month. I didn't switch countries. But it was a bit of a struggle. And I think that that's kind of like where my kind of initial excitement phase tapers off. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we like kind of get into the meat of the episode, if you will. Here's my notes. Ugh, did you guys miss me? I missed you guys. I miss streaming. I'm so sorry if I cough like 1,000 times, and I'm not going to mute every time because then I'll just be doing that all the time. I'll be like playing the drums on the top of the mic. Anyways, I missed this. I missed everything. Yeah, there's like a fair amount of things. I don't know. Guys, traveling is exhausting. And then I got back and it's just like been playing catch up and, integrating my friends into the world here because they're from London. They're living with me, which of course like is just a dynamic change kind of thing. So like that's also like not necessarily like stressful or negative or anything, but it's just like, it's different. Your body knows it's different. And like, I had been living alone previously to that. So anyways, I've been kind of like sick. Then I had migraines and my dog was sick / is sick and had me up like every 2 hours to go to the bathroom. Fun, right? And then the weather here has been bananas. It's like been forest fire smoke because I'm up in Canada, so there's been like forest fire smoke, which has been brutal, or it's been like insanely hot, or it's been pissing rain. And when it's rainy, my dog gets stressed. And when it's smoky, my like asthmatic self, my lungs are like, who's that? And yeah, it's just been taking it out of me. I've only been back for like a week and a half, maybe almost 2 weeks. And it feels like I've been back, I don't know, it feels like a year ago, but it also feels like I just got back because I haven't caught up on anything. I still have my fucking like razor for like shaving my legs like on my desk. I have lotion, travel lotion on my desk. I have all kinds of dumb crap because I just haven't had time to catch up. I've had like time to do my laundry, all that kind of thing. Anyways, all that to say, traveling is both like an amazing thing and kind of a exhausting thing depending on how you end up playing it. And I kind of played it half and half because the first half of my trip, for those of you that don't remember or weren't here when I was explaining that before I left, the first half of my trip was in the UK. So I was visiting my very close friend and colleague who is a co-author of mine, Tristan, and his partner Chloe, who's also a colleague and close friend and co-author of mine. They're like a science couple, power couple, yes. And I was visiting them to kind of like see if I wanted to do a postdoc at Cambridge and like meet with some potential supervisors there. Because this time next year, your girl's going to be Dr. Neuralisha. Anyways, and what happens in academia, for those of you that aren't familiar with the kind of like trajectory, if you stay in academia and don't try and start a Twitch career of science communications, or if you do, what you end up doing is what's called a postdoctoral fellowship. And that's actually why my friend Oakley is here. She's Dr. Oakley, and she's here doing a postdoctoral fellowship in our lab. That's how we met, in the same lab as Layla and I. And I'm looking at doing my fellowship after I get my doctorate in a lab in Cambridge, amongst other labs. But yeah, that's kind of why I was there. And my friend Tristan and Chloe both work there. So it's kind of a good like foot in the door, especially for like a prestige institution, because we know that matters, like Cambridge. And also like the culture. there, which this is kind of a good segue, I guess, into some of the culture shock, like actual psychology and science and whatever you want to say, that I'll talk about, is the culture there is very different. It's a lot more formal. It's a lot less over the top. It's a lot less like meeting, synergy, like all of that corporate talk that we make fun of in North America, especially in like the United States and stuff like that. Is something that's like very absent there. Like if you write like a recommendation letter or a reference letter or something like that here, it's really gushy. It's over the top. It's like, this person is ideal candidate. They were exceptional at doing this. And there's lots of modifiers that are like really, I don't know, over the top. It's just, it's very, comparatively speaking, it's very casual. It's still very formal here compared to like person to person speech or like how I speak to you guys or my friends, but it's significantly less formal than the UK. Like in the UK, they'll be like, this person did adequate work for the 3.5 years that they were employed in my laboratory. This work comprised, and then make a little list. And then it's like, I would recommend them. And it, like, there's no gravy. There's no exaggeration, not exaggeration. There's no embellishment. There's no cherry on top. There's no whipped cream, nothing, right? Proverbially speaking. Anyways, so the nice thing about having Tristan and Chloe there is it's kind of a foot in the door. So I could message one of the potential supervisors that I would work with there and be like, hey, we met yesterday, because they kind of toured me around on the Friday that I arrived. I arrived on a Thursday, but the next day we went into the lab and I met all of Tristan's lab mates and supervisors and like people in the hallway, the corridor people. So I met this potential supervisor and it was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm here from Canada. Oh, you're from blah, blah, blah. And then you get to do the email afterwards. So that's, instead of doing a cold email, it's like a, hey, it was a pleasure to meet you. I'd really like it if you had some time to sit down and discuss potential postdoc opportunities. And you stages, you know, you don't just roll up and be like, yo, I want to work here maybe. Anyways, I get, you could do that. Just probably wouldn't be very well received because England is like, you know? So yeah, that was the beginning of my trip. So it was a little bit of a mix of business and pleasure because I also was there with my close friends and I haven't seen them in a while and I don't see them very frequently. So it was like, let's party. And for those of you that don't remember or maybe don't know, your girl's been off the no dating, no drugs, no drinking since January. And I only broke that a little bit when we were back in Alberta. So really before that, I don't know, I went into like hard party mode for a couple of days. Monocles and tea, that's England. Wait until you meet Oakley, because like, of course, I mean, that's the projected kind of image, but there's like very relatable, cool people there, and people that, you know, are a bit more, I guess, like less like, and like snobby kind of thing, like the kind of like negative, but I do like the little like monocle top hat, hello kind of thing. It's funny. But anyways, all that to say, I partied pretty hard for a couple of nights and that like burnt me out. And then I was back at the airport from Cambridge. I took a big train, get on the airport, and then I go to Valencia. And Valencia was really nice, but it was really hot, of course, because the south of Spain on the coast, but it was gorgeous. And then I was staying at this like absolutely immaculate like guest house where I had my own private ensuite with a jacuzzi and my own private patio and stuff. And then they had like the most crazy rainstorms that they've ever had in like the lifetime of the people that I had met there. They're like, oh yeah, you got here like when there's like crazy rain. And I actually really like rain. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. And read some books and did some like, you know, just chilling, touring around, sightseeing, all that kind of stuff. And then on my last night there, I partied pretty hard. Then I went to Barcelona and I was just like dead. Like I think it was culture shock a little bit because like even in England, you get a bit of culture shock. Like people think of culture shock like, you know, a North American going to China and not being able to read even a single word. But like I know a bit of French. Spanish and French have the same kind of roots in their language. So lots of the stuff translates. People there know English. The people that I was staying with were from England. In England, everybody speaks English just in a weird accent. But still, like there's like little cultural differences, like what I was describing in academia, of course, that's a really specific instance, but just like as a day-to-day person, like they don't have table service there, right? So if you go to a bar and you go up, like someone doesn't come and be like, hey, how you doing today? What can I get for you? What can I get started for you? Like, it's just not like that. You have to go to the bar, you pay for your rounds, like on the go, depending on the size of the bar, you can start a tab at some of them, but you have to go do the foot labor. It's certainly still a different in the way of living. Yeah, 100%. And tipping culture, you don't tip there. Like you do tip, but it's for like more servicey things than just like food service or alcohol and bar service kind of thing. Like we tipped the guy, we went punting because that's what you do in Cambridge. For those of you that are like, punting, what's that? It's not like a football kick for my American friends. Punting is like when the punt is the boat. It's all like long, flat, rectangular boat that's really hard to tip and really like easy to float and like can have a bunch of people in it and can go on shallow canals, much like they have in Venice. And then there's like the guy on the back, the punter, or in Venice, they would call it a gondolier. Very similar sort of things. And they're pushing the boat with a pole, which is apparently a lot harder than it sounds. Anyway, so we paid that guy and he was like exceptionally funny and like super fun to be around. So we tipped him. But like, yeah, I don't know. That's just like the culture. But yeah, tipping is another like crazy different one. And then of course, when I was in Spain, I'm allergic to shellfish. So I was like really worried about getting shellfish poisoning while I was there, because of a language barrier, because that's happened to me in North America. That's happened to me in like Quebec. Going to a restaurant and being like, I'm allergic to shellfish, and then being like, oh yeah, je comprends, pas problème. And I'm like, okay, is it pas problème? Is it not a problem? Or did you shellfish poison me and I have to go to the hospital and Doug has to like slink me over there because I can't fucking walk because I'm anoxic? Because that's actually what happened previously. But so anyways, I was there. I ended up not getting shellfish poisoned, and I had a bunch of amazing food. So everything ended up being pretty A-okay. To be frank, most French Canadians are twats. Well, I don't like to paint a whole culture with a brush, which is actually part of what I'm going to talk about in terms of like, you know, ethnocentrism, xenophilia, xenophobia, which are like two opposite sides of like the same sort of like spectrum, and neither are good. It's one of those things where like it's very easy to, from your cultural lens, one's cultural lens, to like do that. But I totally get what you're saying, Doug, because kind of true. But also, is it that they're cunts to us? Twats, cunts, whatever. Pick your slang word for pussy and enter it here. Are they assholes to us because we're on the outside of the culture and there's a cultural clash? Do you know what I mean? And I like thought about this a little bit. I didn't research hard for this, you know, stream because I just haven't had the time or the wherewithal or the bandwidth or anything like that, literal and metaphorical bandwidth. But the little research that I did do was talking about how, like, of course, our own baselines or our own like benchmarks for normal are our own experiences. That's our version of normal. But superimposing that onto your lens of the world can be really problematic and can actually enhance culture shock and enhance, you know, travel dysphoria and stuff like that. Dysphoria being the opposite of euphoria. Because seeing things as abnormal tends to kind of like coat them, so to speak, in this like guise of negativity. And it tends to perpetuate these negative feelings rather than like a neutral feeling or a positive feeling even, because it sharpens the contrast between what you consider normal, air quotes, for yourself and what you're experiencing in a different culture, even if it's just in a different city, right? Fan of ASMR, hey. Hi, Miss Anne. How was your trip to my country last month? I'm just talking about it now a little bit. It was good. I can't remember, is your country Spain or the UK? I think it's Spain. Memories? Does she have them, or did she use all her brain cells up and ruin them while she was in the UK / Spain? Oopie. Oh, in the UK. I'm sorry, my memory is just... Anyways, it was great. It was great. I was just talking about punting on the Thames and trying to explain that. Or not on the Thames, on the Cam. And just kind of what my experience was like there. And, you know, I guess I didn't really report on how I think of Cambridge as like a prospective place for me to actually go and work. On paper, it sounds amazing. And I really enjoyed my time there. But in practical, like the real ass world, like the more I think about it, moving a dog across an ocean would be, like how am I going to do that? So much paperwork just for the dog. It's so much paperwork, and you can't do the dog paperwork until you do the human paperwork. And that's a lot of paperwork. These guys are experiencing it in reverse because they're moving here from the UK, and it's not that bad, but it's just enough to be like, I don't know, metaphorical friction that I'm like, there's probably some more easier. Like, for instance, I am talking to, you know, my friends and stuff about, actually Dr. Neurolab. I don't want to like dox them, but they're a colleague of mine and have kind of put me on to a potential research avenue that, you know, they're familiar with. That sounds really interesting to me. And I don't know if it's an actual possibility, but like my head is already kind of like, I've talked about this before, lubricate your way to your goals. Literally and metaphorically. You know, if there's friction for something that you want to achieve, try to remove the points of friction. And if there's something that you do want to achieve, you know, that kind of like lubricates your way to that sort of thing, or like eases your way and takes out obstacles. And I'm thinking in my head, a North American place I could drive to, I could keep my car and I would just have to switch the registration. I wouldn't have to learn how to drive on the other side of the road if I wanted a fucking car. You know, but this is also related to the cultural and the travel dysphoria and the culture shock that I'm going to talk about, is because you can see right now I'm focusing on like the negative contrast. What else do they have in the UK if I wanted to spin it deliberately and have like kind of a gratitude mindset? If I wanted to spin it to be more positively valenced and positively skewed, I would be like that you could travel to a zillion other countries very easily and much more cheaply and much more environmentally friendly because lots of stuff is connected by train. I could go to France for the fucking weekend and not burn a bunch of jet fuel, waste a bajillion dollars, and, you know, those sorts of things. I could go to Switzerland. I could try skiing in the Alps. I don't know. I wouldn't do that because I'm clumsy. But I could, is the point. But you can see how the way that one frames the differences between like options, especially when it comes to culture, that it's really easy to focus on the negative because, of course, our minds want familiarity. Our minds want familiarity because it's safe, right? Familiarity means safety because it's predictable, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean safety as in this is a good environment. This is frequently the reason why people repeat negative patterns of behavior, whether it's like romantically or professionally or whatever, because that's what they know. That's what's familiar. So at least the type of unsafe that you would be, unsafe being like air quotes, like mentally, emotionally, physically, etc., would be familiar, so that you would know how to like kind of prepare for that and guard from that. But going somewhere where you don't have all those safety nets, you don't have there's a whole bunch more variables that are out of your control, you know, that becomes unfamiliar and starts to feel unsafe. Because what if one of these variables that I took for granted previously, like, I don't know, here you pay for your rent like monthly, and some places overseas you pay for it weekly. So maybe you accidentally forget to pay your rent because it's something that you used to only have to do once a month, and then you end up getting like a thing. And maybe eviction processes are different there. Maybe it's like a criminal fucking record if you're like trying to go in like Russia or something. I'm being hyperbolic here, of course, but yeah. There's something cognitively effective with teaching somebody using a Stroop-like technique. Tell me more. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, we've talked a little bit about it. See, I have laundry on the back of my chair. Like, this is how this. Do you see this? I'm disheveled, besotted, discombobulated. Anyways, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about, fan of ASMR. This shirt's twisty. I shouldn't have worn the shirt. It's fine. The Stroop task is basically when they will present a word, a color word, so red, blue, green, black, whatever, and then the color of the typeface of that word will match or not match the text. So the word green might be written in red, and your job in a Stroop task, this is usually used in a psychological study context, is to identify when there's matches or mismatches. Usually it's a identify positive matches kind of thing. So you would usually identify when it matches the color, or they'll tell you a color like red, look for when red matches red kind of thing, or when the word is yellow or something like that. Anyways, there's different variations of this task, but the idea is that there's this dissonance between what you're reading textually and what you're seeing in terms of color, and that dissonance is difficult and making you think on a task via presenting something incongruent. So you're talking like using that culturally, like showing an incongruent culture to what is your baseline, what you were raised with kind of thing, and using that as kind of like a exposure therapy. I could see that being a thing. And when there's not a whole lot of like concise research that I could find in my very limited amount of time that I dedicated to researching this. So there might be research out there, but I couldn't find any kind of like concise and, unified location type of information on how they kind of like treat culture shock. But what I did find is there tends to be these stages, and that one of the best ways to combat that is to have that positive identification mindset. What are the benefits of the place that I'm at? If you're finding yourself slipping into the negative, the opposite of that is when people exoticize things and get xenophilic, xeno being different, strange. That's a Greek word, I think. I think Xenos was the god of the strange or the weird or the other or something. Anyways, we all know the word xenophobic, but xenophilia is the opposite of that. And neither of those things are good. Xenophobia is a little bit worse because it tends to go along with a whole bunch of other shitty things like homophobia, racism, etc. But xenophilia is another thing, and that's idealizing or idolizing a culture because of their things. And you see this a lot with anime, and people really like exoticizing and fetishizing Japanese culture. People, especially North American people, particularly guys, tend to, and no shade. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can see where it starts to err into that, and that at the extreme ends of those things, that xenophilia, that fetishization of things starts to veer into what can be unsafe territory. Much like the fetishization of bisexual women. They're like, oh, that's sick. You hook up with other girls. Oh my God. Can we have a threesome? Fucking kill me now. Sorry, I shouldn't make jokes about that. Anyways, we're going to move on. I think the point of what you're saying, fan of ASMR, is that it would be kind of like exposure therapy. Like the more familiar you are with these things, the more your mind looks at, I don't fucking know. Like in other cultures, they serve, if you order fish, they keep the head on the fish. And in North America, you'd be like, like that would make me be like, ugh, I don't want to look at the fish eyeball while I'm eating. But maybe being exposed to pictures of that type of cuisine and the way that it's presented, being exposed auditorily to the sound of the language, or even just the busyness level of things, could definitely be something that I think would work. I don't know how you would taskify it. I guess get you into a positive, effective state and then present those things to you so that there is like incongruence, something that would maybe cause you stress because it's unfamiliar culturally, but you're in a different state. I don't know. There might be research out there like that. From what I've seen, it tends to be more of a related to open-mindedness. Uwu. I did see that you said uwu when I said the anime thing, and Japanese culture. And is this like a BTTV thing that I'm supposed to be able to see? Or is uwu just the uwu that I'm familiar with, like the internet culture thing? Like, or is there a specific Twitch subtext to uwu? Because it's like, uwu is just uwu, internet culture. Okay, I thought so. But anyways, like, it's also the, like that thing that was like big on, I don't want to do it because I'm supposed to, anyways, it's a face. Yeah, anyways, your girl watched Sailor Moon. Okay. She knows. But I don't watch anime. Anyways, it's not Twitch specific. So there's like sub things like the Pepe that wasn't a Twitch thing. The Pepes were a Reddit thing. And then but there's like now Twitch specific Pepes, and they have like, they've taken on their own connotation here. So I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding uwu. I can't believe I'm saying these things out loud. Like, if I just zoom out and listen to the words that I just said, I wanted to make sure I was understanding uwu. But internet culture is a culture. And even that can be cultural shocking. You know what I mean? Like, I'm used to being very adept. North American culture, I feel like I have like, I don't want to say mastered, but at least like the parts of Canada that I grew up in, I can go and feel familiar and know how to code switch. Huge thing, code switching, huge, in this cultural milieu. And I can feel like safe and familiar. And like, if I go to Newfoundland, I would feel fine to get like colloquial and be like, what's going on, boys? That's not how they would talk. That's not even a Newfoundland accent. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is, internet culture is a thing. And when I first came on Twitch, Muse Clues, you'll know this, because Muse Clues has been there since day one. It's my boy, girl, they, them, I don't know. We've discussed this before, and my brain, forgive me for the way that I am. Have a beer with the boys. Yeah, exactly. I was by the bales, but anyways, I'm getting more used to internet culture, but it's still something that like I have to translate and I have to check, and you have to feel safe with your people to be able to check. And that's one of the ways of bridging cultural gaps, is having someone to kind of like be an interface, be an intermediary. So lots of people will end up, if they become expats in a certain country, say I expatriated to, I don't know, fucking France, and I ended up meeting a French dude. Would never do that again. No fucking way. For context, there's a whole highlighted thing. Anyways, but for the example, if I expatriated to France and dated a French guy, that would be somewhere I could be like, what's the French word for this? Or like, why is this like this? That's so different. And I would caution people from saying that's so weird, because that connotates abnormal. But different is something that's a little bit more neutral. So like different than what I'm used to. And someone can kind of like mediate that for you and be like, oh, like the bisou that they do in France. We don't, well, actually they do that. They do that in Quebec. But in the rest of North America, if a stranger, especially a male stranger, did a bisou on you, you might straight up get punched in the face in Alberta. Someone would try and run you over with their giant jacked up truck. Anyways, hi, I'm not an English country, and sci seems to mean something else here. What's the meaning? Sci is short for science. Science. Sephiros. Sephirose. Is that a reference to Final Fantasy? Like Sephiroth? I don't know. That's what I think about it. Anyways, hi, welcome. I'm Neuralicia. Usually on Mondays, I'm on a different channel, Vulgar Science, talking with my colleague and fellow neuroscientist, psychology major, those sorts of things. Fellow scientist. I'm discombobulated right now. Anyways, usually on Monday, it's not just me. But I've been away for a bit, so I'm back. Anyways, I also find it funny that women do it with men and women, but men only do it with women unless the men are gay. I've seen guys do it here with other guys, like cis men, at least. I don't know. Neuralicia, and you're all good. I go by he, him, but don't really care what I get called. Okay, cool. I thought so, but your girl's slower processing. I don't even have my winged eyeliner or my eyebrows drawn on. I'm actually backing off of makeup because your girl doesn't have time and energy for it. Like, I'm just significantly, like, just less. I'm wanting to wear sunscreen because I don't want to get skin cancer or wrinkles. Miss All Natural. Yeah, I went to D&D the other day and I walked in without any makeup. And that's the first thing fucking Sean says to me. He's like, whoa, no makeup. Because lots of people, like, most of the time that I would show up without makeup to, like, my friends, it would be when I'm, like, very upset. But I'm just trying to dial it back so that I can, like, exist easier. And so that it's less remarkable when I do it. But on the same token, then when I put on makeup, which I love doing, you know, people are like, ooh, who are you dressed up for? And I'm like, relax. I just put on some fucking flicky ass eyeliner or some fucking lipstick. Like, sit down, Linda. Anyways, that was a bit of a sidetrack. I'm dressed up for me. Exactly. Well, I mean, sometimes I'm dressed up for other people. Like, who the fuck knows? But yeah, in this case, it's just for time and effort's sake. Your girl's tired. So yeah, I kind of forget what I was really talking about when I was on topic, but I guess the idea of focusing on what's positive and keeping kind of a neutral thing, positive without exoticizing and fetishizing a culture and, you know, making it other on purpose and then like kind of gatekeeping them within like a sphere is something that I would caution against. Like, that's the extreme other end of things, right? Between being like really like, oh, that's nasty and weird, they eat snails up in there. And I'm doing an American accent because that is the stereotype, but not all American people are like that. The vast majority of American people aren't like that. But again, we have this negativity bias, right? So keep your own ethnocentrism in mind. And like, we're all ethnocentric. It's just to what degree we are, right? The herbed butter part is good. Okay, so I discovered, this was the first year that I moved to like the French speaking part of the country. And my friend was visiting. This was quite a while ago. And we went to a restaurant, and I know that I'm allergic to shellfish, but I was like, snails aren't shellfish. Not a bivalve. Get out of here. Are they a bivalve? I don't know. Anyways, I thought they were different enough. I was like, I can totally eat these. And I had whelks, which are basically just like a subtype of snails. It's like an escargot, but not. And they were so delicious. And I love them so much because it's just a chewy thing soaked in butter, basically. Anyways, but it turns out I'm allergic to those, which is why I was so worried about being in Spain, because in Valencia, paella valenciana, they're like quintessential, the very first paella where paella was invented, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes during snail season, we'll have snails in it. And I was like, what if I get the one with snails in it? I learned how to say that I'm allergic to shellfish in Spanish, but knowing that escargot and snails and whelks and things in that family are not shellfish, that wouldn't necessarily help me. And I didn't feel like going into anaphylaxis while I'm overseas. So anyways, this is one of the things that was really great is the place I was staying in Valencia was ran by two expatriates from the UK. So this, the guy of the couple that ran it, I was talking to him. I'm like, okay, how likely is it that I'm going to encounter this? Are there places that I can go that are like more or less familiar with, you know, tourist people, but without being a tourist trap kind of thing? Like, how likely is it? And it turns out that they were like an ex-chef. and I trained in France and stuff. And he's like, it's a chance because everything's got a chance, but you're good. And I was like, yes. So that intermediary and that kind of like reassurance and, you know, that cultural bridge that I had allowed me to go and feel more safe when I, you know, kind of go into the less familiar environment. So I go somewhere where I don't speak the language. I'm traveling by myself. I'm in the restaurant by myself. And because he reassured me, I felt comfortable, I don't know, ordering what I wanted to order and like testing it out, you know, without being too worried that I was going to die of anaphylaxis. And that's one of the ways that you can kind of assuage culture shock or like soothe that while you're out traveling or if you move. And keep in mind that culture shock is also something that doesn't have to be like radically different. I was saying this at the very beginning. But like even moving across my own country, radically different, even different parts of the province that I was born in are different. Rural versus urban, like culture doesn't acknowledge only literal land borders that are arbitrarily made by people. Culture is something that we share in literal space and in, you know, figurative space. As I was saying about internet culture, like there's even differences in internet culture. There's Reddit culture, there's Twitch culture, there's Instagram influencer culture, blah, 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 you know? Okay, so the snails themselves were pretty flavor neutral to you as well, and it just tasted like an earthy herbed butter. Absolutely, yeah. But your girl loves butter. Like, honestly, if someone just gave me bread and butter, I'll eat an entire baguette. No fucking problem. Fucking dust that baguette, man. How French am I? So here's another thing that I forgot. So this is, you guys are gonna roll your eyes. I roll my eyes at myself. This is like a vape pen, but they don't sell them in Canada anymore. It's a non-nick vape. It's just flavored air, and I got one of these like forever ago in Las Vegas before they were illegal when vaping was first becoming a thing. I was like, ooh, vanilla air? Don't mind if I do. Because I have smoked previously in my life. And I've never really been like that big of a smoker. But anyways, this one's flavored like peach ice. Anyway, so I just was like having a little flavored air. And I'm sure that this is also bad for your lungs at some level. Like breathing in any sort of like vaporizing like liquid of any kind, any sort of like moisture vapor is probably going to like, you know, increase your chances of like lung infection and stuff like that. Because what do bacteria like? Warm, moist areas. And what do you do with your air when you breathe it in? You make it warm and moist. That's literally what you're doing. Anyways. Bread and bone marrow. It's like super butter. Muse Clues, controversial opinion. I hated bone marrow. I thought it was, I couldn't even finish it. I had it in San Diego for my first time because I'm a pretty adventurous eater. As long as it's not going to kill me, I'll try it. I'm like, sweet. And I tried it and I really didn't like it. I really didn't like it. And there's very few things in life that I really don't like. But that is one of them. But more power to you if you like it, like what you like, you know? Like what you like. I'm not too, you know, whatever. Anyways, I didn't like it. Maybe it was ill-prepared, but it also might just be conceptually that I had a bit of a mental block about it. And I was like, I'll try it. But anyways, bread and butter is God tier. Risto, my darling, my fave. How's it going? Welcome back to you. Welcome back to me. Science. Thank you. 3 months gift subscription, courtesy of Science. Hug to you too. Thank you. Fan of ASMR, not necessarily breathe in moist air all the time when walking outside, but this is concentrated moist air with other particulate in it. Keep that in mind, right? This is like a mega dose of flavored air. Like, you know, you shouldn't be doing that on the regular, but it tastes so good. Am I allowed to do this on stream? Is this TOS? This isn't substance. This is air. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Anyways, sorry if I can't do that. Yes, you're allowed. So what are you allowed to do on air and what are you not allowed to do? Like, I know, like, you know, don't do naked stuff, but you can get pretty close to naked. Not that that's like on my list of things that I'd like to do, but basically if it's legal, you're okay. Well, okay, but how do they determine? I have a different flavor. I got it. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't opened it, and I figured that I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it right now. It's watermelon bubblegum. Ugh. It might be terrible. I hope the watermelon is good. I don't like the taste of bubblegum. Anyways, I'm about to try it. Sorry if this is a craving instigating cue for any of you smokers or vapors out there, but avert your eyes because this might be trigger. Oh, it's ombre. It's so pretty, you guys. Anyways, I can walk you through it later if you wish. I actually might wish, but I also might not have the mental bandwidth for it. But guys, you're about to watch me hit this non-nic, non-substance flavored ass air, €10 flavored air vape for the first time. I can smell it already. Ooh, that's nice. I hate how it changes your voice though. Anyways, okay. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I quite like that. Anyways, so I got like a cranberry ice one too, but I finished that one while I was there. Anyways, that's the new vice that I picked up is I like flavored air only now. No, that's a lie. I haven't hit the thing since like a week ago. I can take photos and then send them to you with instruction if you'd like, so you can do it at your leisure. Take pictures of what? I don't get it. I have my channel is 18 plus. I have it set to, I think. I intended to do that at some point. Anyways, if it's not, it's not. I doubt that the Twitch moderator, you know, superpowers are, you know, really breathing down my neck about that. It's probably more, I probably violate copyright more than anything if I were to be doing anything. But yeah. Guys, I got my science sticker in the mail. Exciting. I got my drum Kevin because I have Guitarra Antonia, right? Like you guys have seen me stick these ones on stream. And then I have my Starseed that's beneath the little like fucking, I don't know, water bottle condom here. It kind of looks like he's like snugged in like for a little cozy nap. And I quite like that. But I got my Kevin sticker in the mail because I won a raffle. And yeah, I got a magnet while I was away. Can't recall the mature audience's disclaimer when I entered the stream. Yeah, but that was a while ago. I don't know. Now to find a small pillow sticker. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to need more sticker real estate soon. But you guys, I actually, I have to name the custom starseed that I got for Risto's stream. Remind me who it is. Is it Pixels to Paper? One of your community is an artist and is drawing these little star seeds like what Risto just put, but like a custom one for a bunch of people. So like there's a science, like a lab coat ant star seed for science that's like in Antonia style. Anyways, it's really cute. And they did one for me. So I need to think of a name for this new rat thing that's going to be in Risto's thing as like a custom. Yeah, look, there's a little Risto ant. Isn't that cute? Pixel Cuts, that's what it was. I knew Pixel was in there, but honestly, Pixel is in a lot of people's names here. I know like 3 Pixel adjacent names. Anyways, yeah, look at all these. They're so cute. Anyways, mine's ready, but he's not debuting it until I decide on a name. So if you have name suggestions, you just let me know, but I'll probably just end up picking something ridiculous because that's kind of who I am. And then also, I don't even know, where's my follower goal thing? I don't know what's happening. I don't know where things are at. I don't know, but I have this guy that I got when I was back in Alberta that I think once I hit whatever my next milestone is of followers, that I'll name him. Him, them, her, it, It's a Webkins, I think. Yeah, it's a Webkins. If anyone's that age, it's a Webskins? No, that can't be right. Webkins. Anyways, I give you permission to show in your stream if you wish to share with the folks here. You want to debut it here? No, we have to debut it. No, I'm not going to steal the debut thunder. And I can't wait for this Sunday for Coffee Talks. If you're actually doing Coffee Talks, for those of you that don't know, Risto Rock does gaming, variety sort of stuff, but also does this wonderful Coffee Talk Sunday where it's just kind of like a chill, environment. They talk about different, topics. So it's kind of like also mental health adjacent, but with, a much calmer, less chaotic kind of vibe. But I can highly recommend that. So your chat can help with your name. That's true. We're all too young for that. Shut up, Muse Clues. Don't start with me. You're fucking Beanie Babies like me. All right? I know that. Webkins are just Beanie Babies remixed. Have you guys listened? There's a podcast that's about like the origins of Beanie Babies and how it was literally just one guy that was like, I'm gonna make these. I think it was for his kid or something like that. And then there was like a little community of like, I don't know, like MLM Midwest American moms from Wyoming or something like that were like, I want those for my kids. And then they created this little Ponzi scheme, like mini MLM market. And then it just extrapolated from there. And that's what caused the Beanie Babies thing. Anyways, it was bananas. I had a glowworm and remember Cabbage Patch Kids. Listen, there was a Cabbage Patch Kid named Alicia, which, doxing myself, near Alicia. I gave away the A. It's Alicia. Anyways, there's a whole podcast about Beanie Babies. There's also a podcast called The Dream, and their first season is about MLMs and how they started from like Amway in this game called the Airplane Game, and it's so good. MLM, me thinking men loving men. Listen, this is, cultural clashes on Grindr. MLM is men loving men, or on P-Hub, I guess, probably too, and other related sites. Anyways, point is, MLMs to, moms with 3 kids selling candles and leggings to their friends. That means multi-level marketing. MLM in queer culture means men loving men. Code switching in action. There you go. Yeah. That's a way to get us back on track. Muse Clues. I like that for us. Code switching is like a huge thing, and there's not necessarily a negative thing. This is the actual thing that I was trying to research for this, but I just ran out of time and couldn't take notes because I was doing it while I was doing literal brain surgery earlier. But I was looking into the actual like science, psychology, and neuroscience and whatnot of gay voice, male gay voice. Because you guys all immediately know what I'm talking about, I'm sure, because it's a multinational thing. Like there is, if you've ever seen this show called Happy Endings, which is not dirty, it's just a show. There's a character called Derek that's like, we're getting mimosas, and, but is like way gayer than that even. You have my attention. Anyways, gay voice, it's a thing. We all know it's a thing. If you watch like RuPaul's Drag Race, any of these things, you know what gay voice is. And a large part of that, they think, is a code switching style thing, right? It's a safety. It's also a little bit about your vocal cords. Like you do have a personal vocal range that just happens. Women have a shorter vocal cord thing than men do, so they can't reach the same like timbre in terms of pitch. And babies, because they're tiny humans, they can only make screechy noises or like kind of noises, right? So anyways, but it's a lot about like size and like physical like diameter and like length and of your I can't with myself right now. Is it really related to hormones? No. So, I mean, there definitely is an aspect of that. So, like when trans individuals that are trans men will go on T, or when just trans individuals will go on T, testosterone, there will be like an adjustment there. And I actually don't know how that happens, like how that hormone specifically does things, but I believe it just like causes like a lengthening and stretching of like the kind of nodes in your vocal cords. But don't quote me on that. But the point is, I can talk like this, right? And when I'm at work, I probably use vocal fry differently. I don't say like as much. When people have their customer service voice, it's these sorts of things, right? So a lot of people in the research identify, this is qualitative style research, so there's less like number stuff and more just like kind of identifying patterns in people's descriptions of why they speak the way they do, if they're talking about it on the nose. There's a little bit of self-identifying as other. So like when you're in a room full of like cis-hets and you want to be like, I am not one of you toxic fucks. Not that all cis-hets are toxic fucks, but you know what I mean. You can self-identify that way. Frequently, code switching will make you safer. So someone who would normally talk in gay voice might talk deeper or, use different vernacular, which is, where like there's, different pieces of lingo that we use, like slay, that came from African American vernacular English and then was in queer culture and ballroom culture and then gets into the mainstream. And then it's like, ooh, throwing shade. Social adaptation. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, 100% Sephiroth. It's a social adaptation, 100%. Frequently it's for safety. Sometimes it's a little bit for self-identification, like it's a little bit like you don't really need gaydar if someone has gay voice, right? But, and a lot of people, there's, when people will come out of the closet, like a celebrity will come out of the closet, a lot of like the rhetoric around it will be like, oh, they didn't used to talk like that. And it was like, oh, they probably did. They just probably didn't do it publicly because it wasn't safe to do so and they weren't out or whatever, right? So gonna lurk for a bit while I have my appointment. See you soon. Thank you so much for the lurk. Mwah. See you in a bit. Hope your appointment goes well. Yeah, so I think social adaptation, that's a really, really great way to put it. So thank you for your contribution in that way. Yeah, it's something that can work in a bunch of different ways and it can like position you differently, right? So that was originally what I was looking into. But first of all, I don't think I could fill 3 hours worth of content just about gay voice. And second of all, I didn't research it as deeply as I wanted to make that like the full-blown topic. But it is funny because that's another cultural thing that, I'm talking about culture shock in terms of like traveling to a place where, blah, blah, blah. Things are different. Oh, the pizza's weird. McDonald's doesn't serve my Big Macs. They serve stuff with eggs on it everywhere there. Everything's like huevos on your macos kind of thing. And I'm like, why we got to put eggs on it all? I got a shawarma, like a kebab style wrap, like a pita wrap, something that should be wrapped in a pita, and they gave it to me wrapped in a tortilla. What are you doing? Why is this happening to me? I feel very attacked right now. No, I'm kidding. Obligatory replicability question. How do we know these studies aren't just finding noise? So I assume you love the way I say kebab. How am I supposed to say it? Kebab? I don't know. Anyways, there's multiple ways to pronounce things. That's, it's a accent, language, culture. In terms of fan of ASMR, replicability, what you're referring to when you say noise is, I assume, variability. And I'm going to ask you to get a little bit more specific. What are you talking about? Which study, like the qualitative studies where people say why they speak the way they do and stuff like that? For those types of things, qualitative studies are more about finding patterns and having no ad hoc hypotheses necessarily, or less specific ad hoc hypotheses, and more about exploratory kind of qualitative being like the nature of something versus quantitative being about the amount of something. So, people are like quantity and quality, or quality over quantity, as in it's better to have fewer well-made things than many shittily made things, is usually what that's referring to. But in qualitative versus quantitative research, it's not about one being better than the other. It's about them kind of like getting at different things. So qualitative research frequently is more about identifying themes. They run different types of statistics on it. Typically, one very common research approach in a more qualitative approach is to do what's called a MANOVA, which I'm not even going to get into because it's so boring and it's literally just statistics. But basically, you put a whole bunch of variables in and you say, hey, find patterns in these variables. It's much like what we think of the algorithm TM. When you think about that, we don't tell the computer and YouTube, and because YouTube is owned by Google, we don't tell Google, hey, I want to see a video about a girl testing out lipsticks, but I don't want it to be a makeup influencer type of video. And I do like drag queens, so it could be a drag queen, but I don't want it to be, etc. We don't tell it that, but it gets that information out of the data that we are giving it and putting it in. So we use a MANOVA kind of in that way. You put a bunch of variables in and it tells you how those variables relate. Whether or not those variables are labeled, that's a whole different thing. We frequently will somewhat arbitrarily label those things. Factor analyses, as a fan of ASMR is saying, is a whole other thing that lots of qualitative researchers do. I do not do those sorts of things, so I can only speak at a very surface level about them. But exploratory factor analyses will be another thing that they will identify. So these factors will be the variables. So a good example, let me think of a good example of what that would be like. If I were, say, to try and bring it back to our cultural discussion, culture shock and stuff like that, to try and relate it to that, if I were to say, what are the main driving factors of negative valence culture shock? So culture shock that isn't positive for you to experience as a human being. And we surveyed a bunch of people and they wrote down, a bunch of answers, or they answered on things like it's differences in the food, going to the bathroom, service culture, tipping culture, etc. And they rated all those things. And there was, hookup culture, going to the bar, whether or not you drink beer versus cocktails, etc. These are lots of food-related ones, and I'm kind of doing that on purpose because you could plug all of this information in at the front end and not really be looking for things, and then find what the driving factor of the dysphoria that comes with culture shock is, maybe primarily being driven by a factor that circles around, I'm trying to think of the right word that would kind of encompass multiple things. I guess service culture would be a good one. So how you're greeted maybe at a hotel, what the hotels or hostels or whatever tend to look like. Do they have shared bathrooms? Is that super common there? Or is that really different from your culture? You know what I mean? And how restaurant culture works. And that would all be kind of under this umbrella if they all skewed together in the actual data when you ran it. Then you would get this factor that says okay, these tend to cluster together. And then you would kind of have a new variable, so to speak, that you could measure, where you could kind of get specifically in at that. And that's frequently how psychometrics are developed. That's a really broad surface level from someone that does not do psychometric work, does not do exploratory factor analyses or any of this sort of qualitative research. So big grain of salt, but at a basic level, I think that's like a reasonable understanding of how these things work. But the idea is that you don't go in saying, you can go in with an ad hoc hypothesis, which means you make your hypothesis before you run the data rather than afterwards, because that tends to try and deflate confirmatory biases, though they're very much still there. I kind of lost my train of thought. Anyways, with qualitative research, you would have a less explicit, in a lot of cases, or less specific ad hoc hypothesis. You would say, like, I predict that the service-related variables will cluster together, but maybe you'll get a mediating factor of whether or not it's food-related kind of thing, you know? And that would be something that you didn't necessarily take out of it, right? Ouch, didn't mean for this to turn into a factor analysis explanation. No, I think it's fun. And that's part of, like, I don't know, you're maybe not like a long time person on this channel. Like, I know you've been around before, but we frequently rabbit hole, much like science. Let's pull up. We love a rabbit hole. Oh, see, I'm not logged in on this fucking thing. You guys, I don't even know how to run my own goddamn stream. I want to use the science rabbit hole emote. Where is it? Where is it? I need it. I need it. Rabbit hole, rabbit holes. Yes. Here we go. Boom. Rabbit holes. Hopefully that actually showed up. Anyways, we love rabbit holes. That's the whole point, is that, you know, I know you didn't ask a question about it. You probably know more about it than I do. But when we mention these things, I don't want to just go off in this jargon thing, be like, oh yeah, of course, two-factor analyses, but Glavin, right? I want to be like, okay, let's back it up and make this relatable for everyone, because frequently, and I've espoused this diatribe that I'm about to give on this channel many times, but the whole point for me of doing this is to bridge the gap between the ivory tower that is academia and the common person, because there's so much misinformation and mistrust of science because of misreporting and just disconnect between lay people and scientists. And there tends to be this like power dynamic dichotomy. And so when there is a jargon word in my chat, whether it's question or just comment or something that's very on the nose or off topic or whatever, I like to dig into it, right? So I probably should have explained code switching. Most of you probably know what code switching is and like could get what we meant by implication. But I guess my point is, didn't mean for it to turn into a factor analysis explanation. I'm happy it fucking did. Unless I was wrong, in which case, forget what I said. You guys, I have a whole episode planned to talk about this thing called the Bubba-Kiki effect. And I want to hear if you guys in internet culture have heard of the phenomena. There's like a TikTok trend, and I don't even watch TikTok, but there was a TikTok trend about whether or not you're fox hot or deer hot or eagle hot, like you're one of 4 types of hot, ? Anyways, but this expanded into Bubba-Kiki, which is an actual psychological research phenomenon since like the 1920s. And I thought that it would be really fun to get into that. But I think I'm going to do that on Friday. Maybe make Friday a Vulgar Science on the other channel. Follow if you're not already following. Yeah. Anyways, I'm really excited to talk about that. But Doug, you've talked about this, the Bubba-Kiki. I don't understand everything, but there is a factor that relates to everything in a culture, or multiple ones, that is more relating to our brain than our culture. Oh, I don't know about that. Our brain is so complex that it's really hard to say that there's, you know, something that's more neurologically related than socially related, unless you're talking about like genetic kind of influences on the way that we think and operate, in which case there definitely are genetics involved in things. This is like, if we circle back to gay voice or just voice, this is the reason why frequently, like if you answer the phone, people will be like, oh, I thought it was your mother. You know, families sometimes will sound similar, right? Because there is a genetic component to these cultural presentations, or like pseudo-cultural presentations that we have, right? Anyway, so it's like, I don't know. Maybe that doesn't answer your question. but I don't know that there's a good answer to that question. My course director did research related to nonsense word. I recall Booba Kiki being mentioned there. Well, briefly, I don't want to give away the farm because I actually do want to cover this topic, like for real. But without showing you, Alexar Drati, hello, hi, welcome. I'm Neuralicia. I'm a neuroscientist, and I'm doing my doctorate degree. And right now we're talking about the Booba Kiki effect. I miss a lot of terms or words, so I might be a bad way of phrasing it. I'm sorry. Oh, that's awesome. Anyways, so it's a fine way of phrasing it. I just think it's a very broad question that doesn't necessarily have a right or wrong answer and would like take a lot of diving into and more like kind of back and forth specifics to get at. But so the Booba Kiki effect, or the Booba and Kiki, the effect is basically that there's a shape that's kind of like a cloud shape, like it's got soft edges, kind of looks like if you drew a wobbly daisy that had 7 petals, or like a cloud that kind of went in a little bit more 7 times. And then there's a sharp star looking thing that has 7 points. And if you ask people from any culture that they've ever done this in, which is a zillion, tell me which one of these is a Booba and tell me which one of these is a Kiki, the vast majority of people will say that the blobby one is a Booba and that the sharp one is a Kiki. And Joseph2812, hi, long time no see. Booba Kiki is, that's the Booba Kiki effect, is the fact that regardless of language, regardless of culture, that there is a visual relation to how we make our oral sounds, which is kind of related. I really don't want to get super into it because there's so much cool research that I've kind of done and I want to make a whole episode about it. But the point is, if you just Google Booba Kiki, you will see the first picture that comes up will be these 2 shapes, and people will always label it a Kiki and always label it a Booba. Even if you don't write it out, even if you just, you know, go like in whatever language, like, est-ce que tu penses quoi? Oh man, my French is rusty. Which do you think? Anyways, doesn't matter. If you ask them in their language and you just said, which of these is Booba, which of these is Kiki, without even showing like the letters, they'll label them like along with it. Anyways, a Kiki is a party for calming all your nerves. So, okay, that's so funny because a Kiki in gay culture, code switching, completely different thing. A Kiki is like a kicking around. We actually had a little Kiki, the last one before I left. We called it a Kiki because it was pride. Oh, damn, it's actually spelled like that. It's spelled like this. Oh, yeah, Dougie Licious put it. It's Booba and Kiki. So Bouba and Kiki, which is really interesting. Speaking of a psychological problem, I have one. Girl, same. Don't we all? This is an accepting place. We don't accept trauma dumping, but we do accept other people expressing themselves and telling their stories. So you know what? This is a safe space. We're all neurodivergent up in here. We do not judge. So welcome with your problems. You know? We help each other. I talk a lot about mental health and going to therapy and stuff. Go to therapy. Should I do my therapy diatribe? I do it every time. Go to therapy. Therapy, everyone can benefit from therapy. Whether or not you need therapy, neither here nor there. Everybody can benefit from therapy. It's like maintenance on your fucking car. You can drive your car without changing the oil and the tires. You can. It just works better when you maintain it, right? Much like your human body. Why is the brain different? Why do we treat it different? That's fucking stupid. Anyways, go to therapy. Go to the brain people. Talk to people. Do your own therapy. I know therapy isn't super accessible. We've done this diatribe as well before. Do the best approximation that you can. Anyways, do blind people see the same similar mental images from sound? Oh, that's a tough one. So from my limited knowledge of the research, it depends on whether they're congenitally blind from birth, or if they're partially sighted, or what type of blindness they have. So a lot of people have pinhole vision, so they can actually like see, but it's just like really, really small. A lot of people have like fuzzy, like occlusions kind of thing, like a cloudiness, right? Very few of the like blind people in the entire blind world are entirely unsighted and only see like black. And even them, from our best estimation, what we think of as seeing nothing is biased by the fact that we have sight, right? So we think about seeing nothing as the absence of color, shape, contour, and all of those sorts of things. But people that are completely unsighted and have never experienced sight have similar activation in their cortices that are associated with that. This is your occipital lobe. Your occipital lobe is at the back of your head. Just like some gross anatomy. Frontal lobe, front of your head, occipital lobe, back of your head, that's to do with your vision. Temporal lobe is on the sides, that's to do with your ears. And then there's like motor cortices and stuff like that within these things. But that's the broad strokes. Anyways, your occipital lobe activity is going to be similar in unsighted individuals as it is in sighted individuals when you tell them, you know, to picture, like play them a sound of like waves or something, like I like the sound of ocean waves going in and out, or what have you, right? So they're going to have a similar activation, but that doesn't mean they're seeing the same thing. It means that it's activating these areas in a similar fashion. But there are other association cortices, we call them, which is just kind of a way of saying like not that area, but an area that we know activates when things are connecting. Okay. This is why I don't do MRI and PET research, but Sephiroth, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. I don't know where my follow thing is. My new follow goal is, oh, it's because it's beneath everything. Oopie. Usually there's a little walking rat that shows up. Here he is. Look at that. There we go. Thank you. I really appreciate your support. I hope that you get some value out of it. Teehee. Anyway, so blind individuals have similar cortical activation, but keeping in mind that cortical activation doesn't necessarily always relate to actual lived experience, right? Because if that were the case, then we could just fix a lot of problems by activating or deactivating certain cortices. And that's just not the way that things work. The combination of activation in these areas in a very complex multi-polysynaptic billions of neurons kind of way, that's what produces your own individual experience. So it's kind of a cop-out answer, I guess, but to our knowledge, could be. When people gain sight, here's an interesting one. If you tell people to envision like the drawing of, I can't remember this study. Never mind. I'm skipping past it. I have to revise that, like rethink about that study. But there's something about our mental representations of things and how they map onto like physical space. Like, you know, if you picture drawing like a life-size rat and you picture it in your head and then you translate that out into an actual drawing, how close is it to what a real rat is? Like, does it scale properly? And the answer is it does. This is kind of a garbage explanation, but what? There's a difference between congenital and inflicted. Yeah, basically. Or in between, right? I actually watched a video recently of someone doing a brain activity mapping on someone who claims to be a medium. Oh. Although it was on TV and likely dramatized, it was really interesting. Really? Okay. So were they doing MRI or PET or EEG? Was the person wearing a thing that looked like the thing that Elle wears in Stranger Things with all the little nodes? Because that is probably an EEG, which can tell a little bit of, basically it uses magnets, electromagnetic fields and activation related to that. And the change in activation. So I thought so, because it looks cooler, and you can't record people inside an MRI because it's a giant fucking magnet. So someone that's like videoing an MRI, you're just going to be looking at this big thing because they're in it. Like, it's a tiny tube. It's like very claustrophobic. Do it if you want to do it, but I don't like it in there. Anyway, so that's an MRI. So you can't really record someone in an MRI machine because that's just not how things work. And PET is like kind of, you would see it on the screen, but there wouldn't be any obvious difference, I guess. Yeah, no, there would be. You could record PET. It's probably EEG because that's the one with all these like little nodes and stuff like that. And that is a really good temporally precise way of measuring things. Temporally meaning in time, in temporality, because it happens as you go. So while this person is claiming to be a medium, I'll be lurking while I get something to eat and cry in the shower. I cried in the shower in Barcelona. So T, I hope life gets better. I'm sorry that you feel like crying in the shower. I hope you get something delicious to eat and that your shower cry is cathartic. Anyways, I sent you the YouTube video on Discord. I don't have anything open. I'm so ill prepared for this. This was supposed to be on the Vulgar Science channel. I did not succeed. Do I have my Discord open? I don't have my Discord open. I'll look at it later. Anyways, so while this person is being a medium, what this would be looking at is probably a difference in activation pre versus post activation of this like medium state. They're like in their trance or whatever you want to call it, and showing that there is a cortical activity difference. Whether or not that validates the fact that they are indeed contacting another being is impossible. You couldn't prove that way, but you could prove that there would be cortical activation differences with EEG because it would be moment to moment and it would show that live. Same with an MRI. An MRI would be pretty temporally precise, as is a PET scan. Things like lesion studies and stuff like that are obviously very not temporally precise, right? So there's like kind of different, but they're way more spatially precise and they can get down to the level of the circuit and the level of the cell type and the level of the neurotransmitter. None of those techniques that we were just describing, MRI or any of those, can get down to those levels, which is, PET is functionable, but FPET has the same problems as fMRI. Yeah, well, and here's the thing with all of these imaging studies is they're much like preclinical research in, rodents and primates and stuff like that is nothing without its human compatriots or its human component parts or relative parts. That type of human imaging research kind of means nothing if there's no behavioral relative stuff. So they have to work in tandem, right? Like you can't just be like, oh, I did an MRI and we background subtraction methoded it and we found a difference. So this is an area, which a lot of people in the fMRI world do. And it bothers me. I wonder if the brain activation is similar to someone experiencing a religious experience. So they did like an MRI thing on like monks. And they've done like a bunch of stuff in like, deep Buddhist meditation and found that, yeah, there's big differences. I don't know if a medium would be comparable to that. I suspect so. It would probably be much like, so let's back up a sec. Let's back up, get on the same page, guys. Let's all talk a little bit about the default mode network. The default mode network is basically your brain's resting state because your brain is never doing nothing. It's not only using 10% of your brain. It's like all of that is mumbo jumbo. That's just not possible. If your brain is off, you're dead. I've talked a little about this like famous salmon study where they put a salmon in a scanner and it like gave signal and it was dead and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we've talked about that before. It's a lot more nuanced than that. But the point is when you use these background subtraction methods, you have to subtract the activity that you're looking at from just basal activity when your brain is doing nothing, which your brain is never not doing something because you're alive, right? So there's like basically your calm resting state where you're not actively engaged in mental activity overtly. You're just kind of like floating. That's usually analogous with what we would call a default mode network. So when your brain is not engaged, that's your default mode network. And a lot of people talk about like what parts of your brain are active when you're in default mode network being like the seat of consciousness, but don't even start. I refuse to talk about consciousness right now. Oh no. Good day, mate. I can't I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up the accent the entire time. It might slip into a bit of a Kiwi accent because I've been around Kiwi individuals quite a bit lately. But thank you for that channel point routine use, because that's really great. We also image the activation of neurons near death. Yes, and the neuron activation near death, I think is similar to when people have an epileptic seizure. So if you have an epileptic seizure, your brain goes into this kind of like highly excitable, overly activated, lots of areas are concurrently activated when you're having an acute seizure. And this is this kind of flood, I guess I'm from Yorkshire, flood of, oh, you guys. Consciousness stream when? We actually tried to do a consciousness stream and it was so bad and so boring. This is like in the early days of the channel before I really found my groove, before I brought the goop on stream. before I really found my stream groove. Anyways, the consciousness, we did kind of do a consciousness stream a long time ago. But I could reapproach it. It's just, it gets so philosophical and like, it gets so like, Joe Rogan, come tell me what does consciousness mean? Like it gets so esoteric, it gets so off track so easily that I tend to avoid that. You know, there was a time, what was his name? Chrono Triggers. He hasn't been around in a while. They haven't been around a while, but when we were talking about like, was it parasocial relationships and like other, there was a bunch of like stuff where they're like, ooh, what does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be sentient? And I was just like, sir, I'm a neuroscientist, not a philosopher. Anyways, I tend to really disengage when it gets philosophical. So if we did like a hard neuroscience approach to it, see, and that's another debate is like, well, how much neuroscience gets to determine what is and isn't consciousness, because just because brain activation, that's not the be all end all of things. So I'm being very ethnocentric right now about science culture and neuroscience culture and hard, definable, objective science being the almighty thing. But I am a scientist, so that's just who I am. So just like, suck it. Don't fucking care. Anyways, I guess the point is we could talk about it, but it's low on my list, put it that way. I'm sorry. Unless people are like demanding it, in which case I'll do it. I love to please. No, that's not true. I don't love to please. I like to do what the fuck I want. At this point, there is quite the to be streamed idea list. There really is. It's like 50 items long. I have a huge list. You like that? Why am I like this? Okay, but here's the thing. This is, I think, going to be an interesting thing, and I've talked about it before, and I'm going to start it soon, is the addictive substances stream, the series that I'm going to do. I think I'm going to group it like opioids, stimulants, sedative hypnotics, hallucinogens, alcohol, and other related depressants. And so that's what, like 5 or 6 categories. So I think if I did one a month, that would give me time to research it and like get, really like specialists. And then I could show you guys how they work in the brain, like what receptor areas they work on and how it actually functions, how naloxone works and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the to be streamed ideas that I'm prioritizing right now for my own personal stream. In terms of Layla and I's Vulgar Science stream, that actually might be a place where we could get more conversational about this, like kind of like more like intangible idea based sort of stuff, because she tends to temper my dismissiveness a bit more by being like, well, and it's fodder for discourse, if you will. So maybe I'll bring that up to her, but yeah, that's how I feel about that. I need water and lip balm. Ugh, and I'm yawning. And it's only, guys, I've only been doing this for an hour and 40 minutes. I might not make it to 3 hours. Every single time I say that, I end up making it to 3 hours and everything's fine. But I did brain surgery all day. And I'm about to do brain surgery all day tomorrow. So I have an excuse. And I'm not just tired. I'm like, hello. You know? Every time you think you're free of the philosophical ramblings, Layla is there to pull you back in. It's true. It's true. And here's the other thing is Get a Grip. He kind of likes that sort of conversation. And he's a very even person in terms of like not being like, no, like he's not a dismissive person to talk to. So like those are people that I feel like, I guess, I don't want to say safe having a conversation like that with, but when you open up to the worldwide internet talking about like philosophical things that can't be proven or disproven and you start to get in a discourse fucking circle, it starts to just be a thing where it's like, we're not talking about the same thing, or we're arguing the same point, and it becomes really circular. And then I'm just like, this is not what I'm here for. Because honestly, as I've talked about before, I stream because I like it, and I like to stream about things that I like, because the more I like it, the better I do at it, and the more value and I think fun and stuff like that everybody else gets out of it. So, you know. And also, when I suggested the Addictive Substances streams as a series, people were like, yeah, that'd be super interesting. I'd hella watch that. So I'm like, keen to do that. I think it would be fun. Oh yeah, I was going to have water. Guys, what is New Jersey like? Like, what's it really like? Especially like the like colleges and stuff around there, the universities like Rutgers and stuff like that. What's that like? Tell me what that's like. Tell me what New Jersey's like. I've only ever been to the Newark airport, but that's somewhere that I'm entertaining in terms of maybe pursuing. There's someone that does science there that I admire their science and is doing stuff that's maybe interesting to me. So I'm trying to like just soft suss out whether or not it's something that I want to pursue. Not sure. I'm trying to figure out the same thing. Isn't it like New York? If you said that to a New Yorker, they'd rip your face off. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Anyways, you're close enough to NYC and Philly that I just assume you can hang around those areas. Yeah, well, Philly's kind of close to there, I guess. Like a suburb of New York. It is pretty close to New York. Like it's just across, there's like a tunnel to Jersey, isn't there? There's the Jersey Turnpike. I don't know if that's a thing. That's a thing. I just don't know if that's the thing. Anyways, Philly borders one corner, NYC the other. Anyways, I don't know. There's a university. There's a person running a program. Anyways, I'm interested. The ocean is on the third side. Oh, right, the shore. I'm trying not to let cultural judgments and xenophobia related to things that are colored by, this is something that I wanted to talk about. Culture shock can be really influenced by media. I'm pulling it back. We're getting back on topic. Watch this. Watch me fucking flex my back on topic skills right now. Part of culture shock can come from people. This is a great example of this, I think, is when people go to Paris and think that it's like, and like people with accordions and striped shirts. Those striped shirts that like stereotypically in your head French people wear, that's an actual thing. They're called marinières. Marinière. Oh, right. I can't type in it. Hold on. I got to go to the right window. I'm going to type in marinière. Marinière. For fuck's sake. Oh, I unmuted myself. That's awful. Marinière. There's accents on a bunch of those E's. Anyways, those are called marinières, and it's cool. But not everybody's like walking around like that with a baguette. They do really like baguettes. They do get baguettes. You see people with a little basket with a baguette, but it's not like as romanticized. So a lot of people like see like Emily in Paris and I want to go to Paris and like go to the Eiffel Tower and realize that like there's a lot more to it and it's really busy and it's really smelly and it's like hot as balls in the summer and that sort of stuff. Anyways, but like the cultural perception that you get from media, especially North American media, is, you know, really influential. So a lot of people when they go to New York expect like Friends, depending on the age of the person, people my age, you're like, oh, I want to go like hang out in cool coffee shops with like mismatched furniture and drink lattes. Or they think about like Sex in the City and like, I'm going to go get a Cosmopolitan or a Manhattan. When really it's like, it's just it's a mix of everything, right? Like there are those things there, but there's also a bunch of other things. And that's not most people's experience. So you go expecting this kind of like polished Hollywood, you know, film version of things or media version of things, and you very much don't get that. And that contributes, I think, to a lot of people's culture shock. It certainly contributes to mine, at least a little bit. Next season on Jersey Shore, Neuralicia. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine me with like fucking, what's his name? Ricky Jones or whatever. What are their names? DJ Polly D. That's one of them. And then I'm sure there's one named Ricky. And then there's the girl with the bouffant. Nikki? I feel like there was a rhyme. Ricky and Nikki or something. Anyways. Or when people go to Hollywood and they think that it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to be able to go to Beverly Hills. And then they get stuck in LA traffic or fly into LAX and realize that it's like right next to like the mega, you know, not Harlem, that's New York. It's right next to Compton. So if you just like drive around LAX, like maybe 10 minutes away, you're like in the hood. And that's not to disparage that area culturally or anything like that. But like, you know, it's very in contrast with what a lot of people's ideas of things are. They're like, oh, I'm going to go to California and surf. Oh my God. Like Kardashians. Right? So I guess my idea of what New Jersey is like is entirely based on my very bad memory of half an episode of Jersey Shore that I caught while someone else is watching it because I've never watched it. So I'm trying to like temper what my thoughts of it are like with, it would be like going to Philadelphia and thinking that the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is an accurate representation of your entire Philly experience. I just don't think that that would be accurate. Though a lot of people from Philly are like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Anyways. The contrast, the more that there's a contrast to what your baseline of familiar is, the more you're going to have this dysphoria related to culture shock and stuff like that. And I haven't talked about this yet, but there's 4 phases of culture shock. There's the first phase, it's the excitement, the arousal phase. Arousal. We don't mean sexual arousal. We mean bodily system arousal. So cortisol's going off, your adrenaline's happening, all of this stuff you're getting, you know, activated, for lack of a better term. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated, right? And this can be short-term or long-term. It doesn't mean like just in the moment kind of thing, but you know, the first part of your trip, you're excited. New things are exciting, not intimidating or exhausting, right? And then what happens next is the culture shock phase of it. And the culture shock itself doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Sometimes it can be culture shock that's a good thing, and that you can be like, wow, I can't believe things are so cheap here. Or, wow, I can't believe that, you know, I don't have to tip. That's, you know, like all of these things can be like part of culture shock. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative, right? That's why I'm saying dysphoria related to culture shock. And then there's something called acculturation. So kind of like acclimatization. Acculturation is when you kind of get used to the culture. And it can be also a good thing or a bad thing, right? So like getting used to the culture doesn't mean ingratiating yourself into the culture and incorporating yourself and going native, living like a local, all of these kind of like colloquial ways to put it. it doesn't mean like necessarily assimilating. It means what it says, acculturation. You become used to it. It starts to become something that's familiar. Maybe you don't identify with it, etc., but you do. And then the last thing is the stable state. And this is where people will frequently revise their actual identity, psychology, their kind of like self-politic, if you will, into like, I don't know. Even when I went to Ireland for a month, the very first time, I was one of those people that like came back and was like, oh, like if I went to Barcelona and, lots of people will be like, it's pronounced Barcelona, it's a whole thing. People like get really annoying when they come back from trips. But I was that annoying person when I came back from my trip from Ireland because I was like, holy shit, that place felt like good. Like by the end of my trip, I had acculturated and I had got to this like stable end state where I had kind of like revised my identity to include a lot of the encounters and experiences that I had there and brought back with me and are now part of my, North American Canadian self. They're in there with that Canadian identity and kind of mashed together in a way. Right. So that's usually what ends up happening. Isn't Compton itself heavily gentrified? Come to think of it, isn't the whole of LA gentrified? Yeah, I mean, it depends what you consider, like much like what happens in Chicago. I think what happens in Compton and other related areas in various jurisdictions is the hood, the, lower socioeconomic status areas of a city tend to be more affordable, right? And when, there's the upper middle class generally, or developers, the ultra rich and stuff like that, see opportunities there to capitalize and make a lot of profit margin, they will come and gentrify the area and make it so that it's more commercial, but they won't be able to do it to every area because you can't force an entire people out of an entire area all at once, which is why things tend to happen over time. Like, oh, that used to be the hip place to live, now it's blah. That tends to happen in every city that I've ever heard of. They're like, oh, that used to be the cool place and now it's here, whatever. So yes, I think you're correct. But what happens in a lot of these places, it's like stripes. So like when I was in Chicago, for example, there's like one street where it's like $1 million homes, the next street where there's like literal, you hear gunshots, and they're like the literal next street over. And that's like halfway through its gentrification, right? Like when is gentrification over? When no one wants to live there anymore because there's a new cool area that's more affordable? I don't know. When it hasn't been infiltrated by yuppies, when there's not a Starbucks on every corner. I don't know. When what's the benchmark for gentrification? The Chicago neighborhoods are like that, changes in the blink of an eye. Yeah, and I think a lot of other places are like that to varying degrees. It's very patently obvious in Chicago. Like it's so, especially in South Chicago. Yeah, I think that's like pretty common. There will be like parts of the neighborhood that's like, it used to be not safe to go there, but now there's a new cafe or something, right? Or there's like a hip restaurant or whatever. Happened in pretty much everywhere that I've ever lived. So when the houses become unaffordable for the jobs locally available, that is a good measure. Well, and like, here's the other thing is like, we're constantly growing the distance of the rift between ultra rich and like upper middle class. Like it's so funny. This is like getting very like socio-political right now, but I don't fucking care. It's my stream. The distance between like normal rich people, like some like upper middle class people that would even have a trust fund or something like that, even that level of rich is light years away from ultra rich people, and ultra rich people in multinational mega conglomerate corporations that run all of the media on earth and everything. And it makes me really dysphoric just to think about the gully between those people and even the next closest rich. That divide is becoming bigger, and then the divide between like the everyday rich people and the lowest end of the socioeconomic status is also widening, right? So this gentrification is going to continue in a more kind of rapid and fluctuating way, I predict. Time for me to start selling pitchforks in chat. We love that. I wish I had made tea. I didn't make tea because it's pretty hot. But guess whose throat is sore from still being sick? You guys, I think I got a strain of COVID. Like I did a COVID test and it didn't come out positive. But that just means that that test can't identify. I could have a different strain that test can't test positive for. Anyways, but I completely lost my sense of smell. Whatever it was, it is lingering to fuck. Like I have a headache right now. It's probably dehydration because I had a lot of coffee today, which was stupid because I'm doing surgery. My hands, like I'm already like pretty. Actually, my hand's pretty stable right now. No, it's not. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm a pretty shaky person. I'm not sure the air quality there is helping. The air quality in all of Canada is on fire. Like every time I talk to like my friends and family, like across the country, no matter where, they're always like, oh, you got any smoke there today? That's actually how it is. Instead of like, how's the weather today as like a, easy, small talk topic. They're just asking about how much smoke is in the air. And today you could actually see a tiny bit of blue sky. And I was like, oh, what a clear day. No, it's still hazy as fuck. The air quality is terrible. But in comparison to how terrible it has been, it's actually pretty good because we're in the end of days. So if you want to get dysphoric, think about that. I would recommend not doing that. And I personally am not going to do that because I'd like to not want to curl up in a ball. But if you have to curl up in a ball, self-care. I don't know why I just brought this clip into it, but I kind of grabbed it and I'm like on a rant. Self-care. Cry in the shower if you want to, Joseph. We appreciate you. I shouldn't laugh. This is a serious matter, but I'm deliriously tired and still a bit sick, and I haven't had a chance to like do my laundry or clean my room. Like I've only done subsistence laundry. Bring on the climate change doom loops. When I read that, I was like, what's a doom loop? That sounds like like a goth Fruit Loop. I'm like, can I try it? Can you imagine? Remember when they were making like the all black like hamburger that you could get and charcoal ice cream and stuff, and where like all black stuff was in? Ooh, I loved that. What else did I write down here? Choosing a job, choosing a place to work, and thinking about the culture and how I could acculturate to a place is very much coloring my thing, because like when I talk to people about the Cambridge thing, everybody's like, why would you not go to Cambridge? It's Cambridge. It's like, Harvard or Yale versus, I don't know, some other pretty decent university. And people are like, why wouldn't you go there? And I'm just like, because then I'd have to live in Cambridge. There's so many like lads, all right, and it's expensive and all that kind of stuff. When your wardrobe is all black, but you need to match the different shades. My wardrobe is like pretty pink. I wear a lot of black. I do wear a lot of black, but you want to know why? It's because I'm sweaty. Black doesn't show sweat stains as much as other colors. I'm a less sweaty person now. I think my body has started to... I'm sorry, I'm yawning. My body has started to acclimatize to the different type of heat that it is here. Moist versus dry heat. Blah, blah, blah. But I sweat less. Or maybe I'm just aging. You can hear that my nose, my decongestants are wearing off. You could hear it. You could hear it. Listen, that's nasal. Hold on. I'm going to blow my nose, but I don't want... I'm doing it off camera. Just pause, please. What an entrance. I feel much better. I don't feel much better, just my nose is less like congested, so I don't sound like ugh, kind of thing, which is, there's no problem with sounding like that. Some people just sound like that all the time, but that's not how I sound normally, and I'd like to sound normal. But yeah, at least you remember to unmute before you went on an epic monologue. I don't know that I have another epic monologue in me. I've like kind of covered most of my usual ones. Did I guys? Did I talk about tornadoes already? I forget. Have I talked about tornadoes? There are tornadoes in the western part of Canada like yesterday and the day before, literal category F3, which is like, I think it's like an F1 to 5 scale. In Alberta, there was an F3 tornado, and it's like very close to like people that I know from back home. In any event, I don't want to like dox my previous life because that will, I don't know. I don't want to, whatever. I don't want to dox like my entire existence, but put it this way, Alberta, there was one major tornado, but there was like tornado warnings throughout all of like central Alberta. And it was pretty scary. And I was talking to my parents and they were driving to like a cottage kind of thing for the weekend because it was just Canada Day. It's like our 4th of July was on July 1st. We don't call it the 1st of July. We call it Canada Day. You guys don't call the 4th of July America Day. Is it Independence Day? Is that what you guys call it? Anyways, whatever the fuck it is. So our country celebration was on the weekend. So frequently people will go away to like cottages and stuff like that, or cabins or whatever you want to call it. Lake homes. And my dad's like, oh yeah, there's a tornado watch right now where we are, right where we're driving through. I'm like, why are you doing that then? Take shelter, surely. You're not a storm chaser, Helen Hunt. That's who's in Twister, right? Anyways, I was like a little bit like, what the fuck are you doing? But then again, supercell storm clouds and stuff like that in Alberta are like kind of just common. Like there's frequently tornado watches versus tornado warnings. Tornado warnings are like take shelter. Tornado watches are like, watch out, there might be a tornado. Keep an eye on things, you know. But they had like lots of extreme weather statements. And that's after just having like half the fucking place be on fire. So that's fun. Watches are not too big a deal. It's warnings that are scary. Yeah. So yeah. And my dad was like, oh, we're driving through an area with a tornado warning. And I'm like, please don't die. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind. They didn't die. Spoiler alert. I probably wouldn't be streaming if my family had been harmed. But yeah. Because Tornado Alley, like the one that goes through Kansas, famous for its twisters, actually reaches all the way up into Alberta, into like northern Alberta, the very, very top tip of it. So yeah, that's a fact that I decided to share with you. I just wrote tornado on my page. You guys, here's another thing that's exciting that I can share with you. Look, remember how I said I was going to bring a brain on stream? My friend gave me a 3D printed mouse brain. It's a mouse brain. It's 3D printed. It's a little bit hard to see. Can I do the influencer thing? Focus? It's just not working, is it? Anyways, so this is, I could touch it. I want it to work. I want it to focus. Stop. It's not working. Anyways, this is the front of the brain. This is the back of the brain. That's the bottom. That's the top. Isn't it tiny? It looks like a piece of chewed gum. So it's this orange color. And it's 3D printed, so it's not great. But it's pretty cool. And it's pretty accurate. And I can touch it because it's not full of like toxic shit. It would be better if it was a light color, but see how the lobes are separated and how it's quite smooth? Because, pardon me, because all of the folds of the brain are an increase in surface area. You picture if I gave you a piece of paper and a pint glass and said fit the piece of paper into the pint glass, what would you do? Crumple it up, because you can fit more surface area in smaller area if you put folds, which is why we are smarter than the smooth brains. You know, wrinkles are good. Risto, welcome back. It does look like a piece of chewing gum. Is this to scale? Yes. This is the size of a mouse brain. It is itty bitty. For scale, this is my lip balm, and this is the mouse brain. Isn't it tiny? It could fit in the lid. It could have a little lid ride. I'm not going to do that, but yeah. And you can see that like the front here is, I believe, the olfactory bulbs. I don't really study that area. I usually chop the front part off to section areas that I care about. But I believe these two giant kind of globby bits on the front that kind of look like brain testicles. I believe those are the olfactory bulbs because they use their snout, their sniffer, more than we do. Anyways, is that to scale? Yes. Speaking of on lab rat brains, well, this is a mouse brain. Rat brains are about the size of a walnut. Actually, this is probably a decently sized, like obviously it's thin, it's a pin. But this is probably this is a human brain kind of like analog model that's really cool and I really love. But a rat brain would be about this size, like front to back and stuff like that. Either you do it or I'll add him as an emote and do it myself. I don't know. I can't do it right now. I don't have a mental bandwidth, but I don't really know what you mean. I don't know what's happening. You're talking about the lab rat starseed, right? I haven't thought of a name for him. I'm just fine. I'm just giving you a hard time. Listen, it's so easy to give me a hard time right now because my life is a hard time right now. It's not actually. My life is fantastic. And I've had like a wonderful time. I went to my friend's art opening. Well, not art opening. They had a piece in an art show, and I know a bunch of like their, fellow artists in that little collective that go to the same MFA program. And we went to a little exhibit and we had a little like party afterwards, and I introduced my London friends to my other friends, and it was a fantastic time. My life's been magnificent lately, but I'm tired. I'm so used to like doing, like I was, before I left, guys, I was doing puzzles. You remember I was talking about doing puzzles? I was like in the grandma groove. And then I like very much ungrandma'd and just have not recovered. That's what happens, I guess. A week to myself in the mountains. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think to truly recharge, I would need like the environment around me to be like pretty chill. And right now, a lot of the mountain places are on fire too. But theoretically, if I could have just like temperate climate, not pissing rain. Actually, I wouldn't mind if it was raining, but that means who gets stressed when it rains. So realistically, I just need another 5 days like I had in Valencia, and just to be able to enjoy that. But yeah, so welcome back from your appointment. I hope it went well. Yeah, you guys, I don't know that I have like a whole lot more to talk about. It's only been 2 hours. I might cut it short. My brain hurts. I actively have a headache right now, and I don't know. I don't know what else to talk about. I've talked about culture shock about as much as I can, and I've talked about the little brain. It did go well. How is stream? Stream is good. Stream is good. I'm happy to be back, but I also remember why I do more than half a page of research. Usually I do like 2 pages of research kind of thing, minimum. Frequently I'll do even more than that. But yeah, I just haven't had the bandwidth today, and I couldn't take notes because I was listening to podcasts to inform me on things while I was doing surgery. And obviously I'm not going to like unglove and write a note and then reglove. Anyways, hey boo. Hey boo. I don't recognize your screen name. Are you first time chatter? If you are, hi, hello, hi. Welcome to me. I was actually it does say first time chatter. Sorry, my thing's not logged in the way it's supposed to be. Anyways, welcome. I'm Neuralicia. I'm a neuroscientist doing my doctoral research right now, and yeah, I talk about neuroscience. Today we were talking about, I can't even remember because I'm so jet lagged and I'm not jet lagged anymore. It's been almost 2 weeks, but I just got back from a trip and I was talking about the psychology and the neuroscience and whatnot of culture shock. And then today I'm just discombobulated and tired. And usually I go for 3 hours, but it's only been 2, but I might cut it off soon. I'm a first-time viewer in the suite. I have stream names, the Gigi, but my man damn call me Gigi. I mean, good for you, pal. Okay. In any event, you guys, I might raid out. I might raid out. You guys, I apologize for making a short stream, but it's better than no stream. So, ooh, that's bright. Ooh, I appreciate the sweet love. Thank you. I mean, no problem. This is so bright. Ugh, get that down. Stop that. Let's see. I think science is on. You know how I love to raid science. I love the lint. Neuroscientist saying you must be great with giving brain. Fuck off. No, not tolerating it. Fucking, we don't talk to people like that on here. No. Thank you, mods. Was that auto mod? Anyways, kindly. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Yes, you can. You're a fucking human being. No, it was me. Was it you? Thank you, Risto. Yeah, be respectful. If you're in here, just like talk smack and troll, you'll get kicked. So don't try me. But also, I just don't feel like dealing with that right now. So I'm gonna look for who's on to raid. I apologize. I accept your apology, but don't let it happen again. Or if you want it to happen again, then leave. But also, if you want to participate in a nice culture and be respectful, this is your place. Science is on. Oh, Dr. Neuralab is on. He's playing Fortnite. I feel like we're bonding now, TBH. Well, so here we go. Let's use this as a corrective moment, people. Let's talk about how speaking this way is not acceptable. That talking to women, to anybody like that on the internet yields nothing good. So maybe it is. This is a learning moment. What was the ideal situation in speaking to someone like that? Nothing, right? I'm a she, though. All right. She, them, they, who, whatever. We respect all gender identities here, non-binary, you name it. However, it doesn't matter what gender you are. You still don't speak to people like that. It doesn't matter the gender of the person that you're speaking to. We do kindness. I thought it was a good gyal to gyal. What's a gyal? Anyways, I'm not engaging with this. I talk about neuroscience. I do a little bit of, girl, sorry. All right, well, girl, you already apologized and I already accepted, but, we are a kind, inclusive, nice, safe space for a lot of people, myself included as a creator, but also the people in this community. And we don't talk like that here. But yeah, I think I'm gonna raid out to science. They appear to be doing some sweet microscopy Monday, which I love, and I haven't been streamed in like a month. So anyways, the GG, I appreciate the apology G. And I think it's time to let's see if I can spell science right now. /raid. Oh, I can't do it in here. Jesus Christ. There's something wrong with I'm falling for you, Sheesh. Don't start. Don't fucking start. I'm not falling for this bullshit. But I am. Can I do it in here? Because I'm logged in. /raid. Yeah. /raid. Sigh. Am I doing this right, guys? Do I have to put the @ symbol? Help me. Science _ streams. Yeah. Shan't. I'm done. Honestly, so am I. But help. Remind me, do I put a space between /raid? Is this gonna work? The raid has been created. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for tolerating my short stream. Oh, it won't let me click raid now. I don't know if this is gonna work. Oh crap. Oh wait, okay, well, okay. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you on Fridizzle. Thank you for the quick stream. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. I will be more consistent going forward, and I can't wait for Layla to be back and us to be having another cheeky little vulgar science. And yeah, preach. right now.